The American President Donald Trump is meeting with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House. The meeting comes amidst Ukraine's urgent request for American long-range Tomahawk missiles. Now, Kyiv has argued that the Tomahawk missiles could extend its reach deep into Russian territory and strike critical infrastructure. Now, Zelensky has claimed that these missiles are essential to increase the pressure on Putin and will bring him to the negotiating table. In the lead-up to his White House meeting, Zelensky in fact spent his Friday in a series of official engagements across Washington. A video released by the Ukrainian presidency shows him sitting down with the U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright and executives from major defense contractors Lockheed Martin and Raytheon. Now, these are the companies behind the Tomahawk systems and the Patriot defense platform. The meeting between the two leaders follows a pretty lengthy phone call between Donald Trump and the Russian President Vladimir Putin that was held just ahead of Zelensky's arrival. Now, Putin in fact expressed some strong opposition to the Tomahawks, warning that their deployment will escalate tensions and will worsen the US-Russia relations. But despite this, Trump has announced plans for a summit with Putin in Budapest within the next 2 weeks, aiming to explore peace options while balancing US support for Ukraine.
I did actually say, would you mind if I gave a couple of thousand Tomahawks to your opposition? I did say that to him. I said it just that way. He didn't like the idea.
The Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has said that he is ready to host the meeting. Orban is known for being very close to both Trump and also to Putin. The meeting also helps Orban gain more relevance in Europe, where he's mostly seen as a bit of a pariah. At the same time, Washington has stepped up its diplomatic pressure on other fronts. The administration continues to urge India and China to scale back on the purchase of Russian oil as part of a broader effort to cut down on Moscow's wartime revenue. On the ground, fighting continues unabated. Near Pokrovsk, soldiers from Ukraine say that Tomahawks could shift the battlefield dynamic, giving Ukraine the range and also the precision that it currently lacks.
If we are given Tomahawks, the most important thing for us is to find the right use for them. I think Tomahawks are quite a serious weapon, and I believe they could fundamentally change the course of war for the better.
Now, further north, in Kyiv region, continuous Russian drone attacks have caused damage to critical infrastructure and have forced widespread power outages across the Ukrainian cities. All right, now joining us live from Minnesota in the United States, we've got Professor Andrew Latham, who is a distinguished scholar of international relations, strategic studies and political economy. Professor Latham, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. Now, this, of course, is going to be a very crucial meeting, we expect, between the American President Donald Trump and the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Will be meeting him at the White House. In your assessment, what is likely to be the upshot of the meeting between these two leaders? What does Volodymyr Zelensky now need from the American president?
Well, I think this won't be the end of the journey, but it'll be another step towards peace. It's quite clear that President Trump has used both carrots and sticks with both Zelensky and Putin in this process. He sometimes, as back in August, plays gracious host to Vladimir Putin and makes all kinds of nice noises, diplomatic noises, and sends them in his direction. And at other times, he does the same with President Zelensky. President Trump wants peace. And he wants that, he will use carrots and sticks to get what he wants. He will offer nice benefits, and he will threaten dire consequences. He's going to threaten Vladimir Putin. He's already threatened him. He's going to threaten him formally in the coming days and weeks with providing these Tomahawk missiles, which will not change the battlefield, but will change the strategic picture because it will allow the Ukrainians to go after Russia's oil infrastructure in ways they haven't been able to so far. And that will undermine the Russian war effort. But here's the problem. The stakes are existential for both the Russians and the Ukrainians. The best anybody can hope for is a ceasefire, maybe one that lasts as long as the Korean War ceasefire lasted, almost 80 years now. But President Trump will not be able to resolve the fundamental disagreement between these two countries, no matter what mix of carrots and sticks he brings to the table.
I think that's a crucial point that you have touched upon there, because when the two leaders, that is Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, met at Alaska, the proposal that was there on the table was largely to freeze the front lines as they exist and also to cede some of the territory that the Russians were demanding. But that is a position that is simply unacceptable to the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians want to roll back the Russian war machine and to regain control of their borders. At this moment, this is a situation that is unlikely to change unless something dramatic happens on the ground. So when Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump meet again in Budapest, do you think there can be common ground that they can agree upon?
I do. I think the question is, are both sides, Ukraine and Russia, at the exhaustion point? Have they suffered all that they're willing to suffer for their respective causes? I'm not sure of the answer. I think we're nearly there. I think we're hearing noises from both sides that suggest that if they get a little bit more of what they want, they'll call it quits for the time being. The question is whether there is no way, for example, that Ukraine is going to roll Russia back to the 2022 borders. It's not going to happen. And there's no way, now that Russia's making incremental gains on the battlefield, there's no way that it's going to stop unless its oil infrastructure and other factors are undermined so that it can't prosecute the war the way it has been. I'm not sure we're there yet, but I'm sure that we are approaching the point of exhaustion on both sides. And that's when a ceasefire can be brokered. And as we've seen with respect to Gaza, an imperfect ceasefire, but President Trump did broker a ceasefire.
All right, interesting. We'll have to see as to how things unfold there. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Latham, for joining us with that perspective there.